This is a short presentation on leukemia. In the blood, we have three main types of cells circulating. We have red blood cells, which are responsible for carrying oxygen. We have platelets, which are responsible for blood clotting, and white blood cells, which help us fight against bacteria and viruses. These cells are all produced in the bone marrow, and from the bone marrow then they diffuse into the blood system. In the bone marrow we have stem cells. A stem cell is a cell that can differentiate into other cells. The stem cell of the bone marrow can follow two lines of differentiation. It can either through the myeloid cells, which include platelet, red blood cells and white blood cells, or through the lymphoid line, which creates other types of white blood cells. Cancer is a disease caused by mutation at the DNA level. These type of mutation result in an uncontrolled cell division, resulting in many cells of a particular type. In leukemia, we have a uncontrolled growth of cells of the bone marrow, so it's a cancer of blood cells. The mutation can occur at any of the precursor cells and leads to the formation of leukemia cancer cells. These cancer cells don't have any particular function, but what they do, they end up crowding out the system. And then after crowding the bone marrow, they spill into the blood system and crowding out that system too. So what doctors can do to try to fight this cancer, other type of cancer, so including leukemia, is to use strong drugs that attack all the dividing cells. Should be noted that all dividing cells, not just the cancer cells, but also normally dividing cells, are affected by these drugs. The objective of this treatment would be to wipe out all the cells resulting from division, but leaving some stem cells that can then replenish good cells. Now, however, if even one or more of the cancer cells, leukemia cancer cells, are left, then these can start replicating and restarting the disease. So one option that the doctors have is to use a stronger level of drugs, so that in this case they can wipe out all the cells in the bone marrow. However, at this point the patient will need to replace these stem cells from a donor. The process of donating the stem cells is relatively simple. In circulation, there are also some stem cells that have escaped from the bone marrow as stem cells. So by taking these cells from the donor and taking them through a cell sorter, the cells are returned to the donor, except for some of the stem cells. These stem cells can then be used for the transplant. Here would be a patient that is being treated with chemotherapy, and all the cells from the bone marrow have been wiped out, and then the new stem cells from a donor are given back to the patient. The difficulty with this process is that you need to match the donor and the patient. This is because our cells carry certain markers, which there are proteins which are referred to as HLA. And these proteins are quite diverse, and they are used to recognize self versus non-self. And they're really designed to protect us from bacteria and viruses. So when you put cells from a donor into a patient, they will also be recognized as foreign unless they have the same markers. Now, the problem is that there are many of these markers, only some are shown here, and this table is just an example, they're not real numbers. But it's just to indicate that each individual will have a different variation for each of a marker. So the probability that any two individuals can be donor for each other is extremely low. So in order to resolve this problem, all over the world, data is being collected for the HLA marker of potential donors. In other words, donors have given a sample of saliva or cheekbones or blood, and their HLA markers have been recorded. When a patient requires a donation, a search is done through all the banks, and hopefully a match is found. The donor and the recipients will never meet, but the donor will know that he or she has saved a life. Even though up to 25 million such donors have been registered around the world, the probability of finding a perfect match is still relatively low, especially for some ethnicities. For white people, there is about 60% probability of finding a perfect match, while for other ethnicity it can be as low as 20%. Hence, there is a strong need to increase the total number of donors, but especially those from different ethnicity and mixed ethnicity.